Good morning, Pennsylvania deer hunters. I want to talk about Pennsylvania deer hunting. It's from when I was 12 years old to as an adult. Pennsylvania deer has declined in the mountainous areas where agriculture areas, private lands, they are flourishing. I hunt state game lands and private land, and you can totally see the difference between both. One, the private land we hunt, we end up having a pack between 400s that I hunt with that you just don't shoot browners down, and it has to score 100 or above. Okay, this next issue is the big issue where people think, well, you got to eliminate a lot of the doe. Well, you got to eliminate doe, but you got to watch what you shoot, because you got to remember when you're counting how many doe in a herd, if there's yearlings and ones that are small, you need the small ones to grow up to be medium ones, and the medium size grow up to be the big ones, okay? There's nothing wrong with shooting the real large ones that weigh 150 pounds or more, but when you start shooting the big ones, the medium ones, and the small ones, guess what you got left? Not much of anything. And as a responsible as a hunter, if we want to see our state game lands prosper and do better, we have to do what the State Game Commission does not do. They want to get rid of the deer. I shouldn't say that, but the management of the state game lands is poor. They're not doing a good job of doing it. Because I've been out there scouting all year long, and you run into pockets. Yeah, you run into some pockets of deer, and seeing some burn areas and clear cuttings that they have done for the deer. But what they do is change regulations, and what that means is starting. Number one, they need to change the antler restriction. They need to change antler restriction to at least 8.4 on one side, which gives the maturity to have bigger bucks. Not only that, it lays off the smaller bucks that they don't get shot. Okay. So then a lot of people figure, well, okay, we can't shoot a buck that year because he's not mature enough. We'll just shoot a doe. Okay, well, here we go again. The state of Pennsylvania, as you know it, recently is always a doeism with buck. Well, that's how many weeks? A couple of weeks. That puts a damper on the doe that's out there because most people don't shoot 150-pound doe in the mountains. Be even 100-pound doe is reputable. They're shooting 65 and 70-pound deer that they're lucky to be just coming out of the fawn stage. And when you continue to shoot that many doe, it leaves not many doe left to even breed. So you need a quality doe herd to have a decent amount of buck, because you got to remember, when you can inflate how many doe are on your property and say that you have so many deer per square mile, but how many of those doe are quality doe that actually can breed, okay? So what I'm saying is the ones that are yearlings and stuff, they don't breed. So that's misleading. You shouldn't be even considering them for deer per square mile, because they shouldn't be hunted from the beginning, and small doe shouldn't be hunted from the beginning. So what I do and how we manage our property is we don't shoot anything. It has to be a score 100 or above, and it has to be an 8-point simple. Well, if you see these bucks back here, that's where I got them at. I mean, there's other bucks I have gotten on state game lands, and there's few over here. The racks are not as big, but they score about 100. I mean, which isn't that bad. But for me to find one like that, you have had a lot of boots on the ground. The only reason why I wanted to prove to somebody in my archery club said there's no bucks out there, decent bucks out there on state game lands, because a lot of them are shot before they even get that old. Well, lo and behold, I found an area that held one, but you know how much time I spent out in the woods? A lot, and I mean a lot. I mean, when I was a kid, you'd go up to Potter County in Tioga, and you could see freaking 30 to 40 deer a day. Now you're lucky if you go up the mountains and you see 2 or 3, okay? And I understand there's predators and stuff like that, but on the other hand is, as we as hunters, we have the right to pull the trigger and not to pull the trigger. So, the juniors, they should stay the same regulation. It's just the senior hunters that should change. And whether the state game commission will do that, I don't know if it's more than money in selling their license. But even though I buy a doe license every year, I haven't shot a doe in the last 8 years because all the doe that I've seen on our property. And I've seen a good bit. I mean, sometimes I see 20, sometimes I see 15, but they're small. Why do I want to shoot a small bow that weighs 50, 60, 70, 80 pounds when they might not even be old enough to even breed, for that matter? So, we have seen some big ones, and every now and then we shoot a big one, but we do know that if you shoot the full food chain, okay, large, medium, and small, what do you got left? You need doe to make buck. That's simple as that. So hopefully state game commission, because there's people that can't control themselves, that just shoot brownies down and don't want to go out and actually hunt a lot of days. They go out maybe the first weekend and say, well, I'm going to give it my best, and that's it. It's the last time they're out in the woods. There is a lot to enjoy out in the woods, I love being out in the woods and stuff, and lots of people say, well, it's pretty cool out there. Well, then you need to dress warm. I mean, simple as that, and I'm not saying all the hunters are fit in that category, but if you really go out in the state game lands and you go out and you look for the first weekend, and then all of a sudden you go to the second weekend, it drops off considerably, maybe 50%. So that tells you something. They're just out there. They want to freaking shoot brownies down, and that's it. And the state needs to step in, because they're not responsible enough to lay their fingers off the trigger. And they need to change this doe license also. Each state, or not, I shouldn't say state, each county should be differently, which they kind of do that in a way, but there's pockets of deer. But what they need to do is anything from starting from the Harrisburg area on up, they need to close doe hunting down for a few years, and then when they go to open it back up, they need to only open it up for like, if I remember right, we got 2 full weeks of rifle season or 3 full weeks of rifle season. I can't remember, but it's either 2 or 3. But anyhow, they should only, it's easy. What they can do is just each one of those Saturdays you can shoot a doe, meaning if you have a doe tag. So if you got 2 weeks, then that's 2 Saturdays you can shoot a doe. It's not hard to be able to do a regulation like that. You got to stop with the, shooting and doing with the buck, because what that does when people go out in the woods, it doesn't make them hunt harder. It just makes them, haven't seen a buck in how many days. The first thing that comes up here, I'm going to shoot if it's a doe. And that's what they do. Simple, that's what they do. So on that standpoint, if you have any questions or anything about deer hunting, I'm 61 years old, and I've been around a good bit, and I do a lot of scouting around the state of Pennsylvania. I know a lot about the rut, and, I know a lot about archery because I normally, most of the time, I would say 90% of the time, I get my buck in archery season. And like I said, I have standards, and we all should have some standards. If you want to be able to compete with the Ohio's and Kansas and some of those areas that have big bucks instead of all these little small deer that we have, you got to let them go to get big. And not only that, the state needs to start putting some ag fields out there to help along the way. That's why a lot of these um, Ohio, Kansas, and Kentucky and Illinois, they have big bucks because the ag fields, you know, what needs to be done is, I know they need to clear cut, but they need to start mixing some ag fields in too. So that helps the deer in their corn crops and soybean or whatever. And maybe they think that might cost too much, but as much as money as they're getting from all the game, for all the tags and stuff and license, I don't see why it can't be done, because I go out there and I see some of the work that they have done. It's far and between, burn areas and stuff, and who they the fool, what's happening with all this money. I mean, and maybe they're putting the money in their certain area, a plan, when maybe they should be focusing on trying to get our deer herds back and start putting some ag fields out there mixed in if they have to. So maybe some of the clear-cut areas, and you already got clear-cutted area, maybe you ought to start doing some planning now. I know it's going to take some probably topsoil and some other testing goes on to get stuff to grow. And over time, with the regulations and the fields, ag fields and stuff, our bucks are going to get bigger, and younger hunters will eventually see it. And I'm not going to be on this earth till I'm 100 years old or whatever, but maybe I'll have lived to see in the next 10 years that Pennsylvania have changed the way of doing things, because the deer herds, and from the Harrisburg area on up into the mountain range or far in between, I'm hoping they change that. I mean, if you watch, there's a guy on here that on YouTube, I think he's called Timber Ghost. He kind of goes through the deer herds areas and stuff, and how deer has decreased and stuff. Now he shoots doe and stuff, which I'm not putting him down for that, because it is a law. You can't shoot the doe if you have a doe tag, but that puts a lot of pressure on the doe too. So, and maybe he has a standard of a doe that he does shoot. Maybe they are big. I don't know. But I do know a lot of things that he's saying is absolutely true, because I see the same thing out there with the clear cutting and stuff, and some of it's poor clear cutting, and some of it, burn areas are not done correctly. I mean, some of the clear cutting area, it looks like that nothing's going to grow there for another 15 years. How's that going to help the deer herds? Huh? You tell me, state. Okay, over and out. Love all you hunters. You all have a wonderful weekend, and take care. Bye.